straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching Firstpost. Let's get started. Now, the Indian cricket team is in the news again because of the two biggest stars of Indian cricket over whom hung the uncertainty of what next. Now, that seems to have been answered, at least for now. Guess who's back in the mix for the T20 setup? After many meetings and constant back and forth, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma's names have been included in the T20 squad in the series against Afghanistan, with Rohit Sharma named as the captain of the unit. But for how long? We'll tell you what this means for the T20 World Cup this year. Who could be in line to make it and who will have to pass the litmus test? Also, Liverpool beats Arsenal, but the big question, with the way the Reds are performing this season, a Europa quadruple doesn't seem impossible. What is the reason for their success and turnaround in fortunes? And Rafael Nadal hits another agonizing pause button on his road to recovery. A muscle tear in his hip has made him pull out of the Australian Open. Is this going to be a rocky year for Rafael Nadal? All that heading your way. But first, a look at the headlines from around the world in Sports 360. Bangladesh cricket team skipper Shakib Al Hasan has been elected as an MP. He claimed a seat in the parliament after the general elections in Bangladesh. Shakib was contesting from his constituency of the western town of Magura. Reports say he won by receiving over 185,000 votes. In cricket back in India, utter mayhem unfolded at the Moeen-ul-Haq Stadium in Patna. This was after two teams turned up for a match against Mumbai at the Ranji Trophy domestic tournament. One elected by the BCA president and the other the secretary. Bihar Cricket Association President Rakesh Tiwari said that he had suspended BCA Secretary Amit Kumar for creating a ruckus before the match. And finally, it's the president's squad that played the tie. In tennis, former world number 3 Grigor Dimitrov has claimed his first ATP title in over 6 years. He beat Danish young gun Holger Rune at the Brisbane International Final. An engrossing contest with high-quality tennis kept the crowd gripped for over 2 hours. An emotional Dimitrov received the trophy for the second time after his 2017 Brisbane triumph. Over in the women's draw, Elena Rybakina scored a crushing 6-love, 6-3 victory against Aryna Sabalenka in the Brisbane International Final. It was a rematch of last year's Melbourne title decider, and it came as a reality check for Sabalenka ahead of her Australian Open title defence. World number 2 Sabalenka came into the contest on a 15-match winning streak in Australia, but she was completely outplayed by former Wimbledon champion Rybakina. And in football, Kevin De Bruyne made his long-awaited return to Manchester City as the defenders of FA Cup title thrashed Huddersfield 5-0 in the third round. Pep Guardiola's side was leading by goals from Phil Foden and Julian Alvarez when De Bruyne came on as a 57th minute substitute. City net 3 more times thereafter through Ben Jackson's own goal, another Foden effort and a Jeremy Doku strike on his return from injury as a second-half substitute. Now, the first story comes from cricket. With the T20 World Cup around the corner this year, any news around India and the T20 squad has been watched with hawk-eye-like eagerness. India is scheduled to play a 3-match T20 series against Afghanistan, with the first one on the 11th of this month in India's Mohali. And let's be honest, despite Afghanistan's stellar performance in the ODI World Cup recently, this isn't the marquee clash of the year, but it is one of the most important tournaments because apart from the Indian Premier League or the IPL, these 3 matches will determine who could be India's playing 11 for the T20 World Cup that's around the corner. But the headline-grabbing news from the squad announcement has been that of the return of Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. There were a lot of speculative talks around the future of these two superstar batters and, of course, the future of Rohit's captaincy in the shorter formats. Now, we'll get to that in just a bit. Both Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma have not played a T20 international for India since 2022, but reliable sources say that they did express their desire to play T20s this year. And just going by how they've performed in the shorter format of late, you won't be able to drum up too many reasons to keep them away. Rohit Sharma's strike rate, for example, in ODIs alone is enough to put him into the squad, as was seen in the World Cup that concluded last year. And even though India went on to lose in that final to Australia, Virat was player of the tournament. Now, need I say more? More than 700 runs in that tournament by Virat Kohli. From what we hear, the BCCI selection committee sat down to discuss long and hard and had enough conversations with both these stalwarts to include them in this series, which is a clear indication that they will be a part of the T20 World Cup in June in USA and West Indies. And in all likelihood, it will be a mentorship role. This would be the swan song for two of the best batters India's produced as far as ICC World Cups go. So in that case, the top order has Virat and Rohit, which brings me to the others mentioned in the squad as far as the batting lineup goes. You have Shubman Gill, Yashasvi Jaiswal. They will be making up the top order of that lineup. The biggest exclusions as far as the batting lineup goes are KL Rahul and Shreyas Iyer. That tells me a couple of things. There could be a fight on our hands for the spot for the second wicketkeeper. In the advent of Rishabh Pant coming in for the IPL, and let's say he makes a great comeback, but even if he doesn't get among the runs, yet looks fit and raring with no niggles, Pant walks into any T20 setup, which means it could be a fight between KL Rahul and Sanju Samson, who's brought into this squad, and he probably is a nose ahead for that second keeper spot, going by the performance that he's had in the last few weeks. And why leave out Shreyas Iyer though? There are options waiting to take up that number 4 spot like Tilak Verma. Then of course there are two major players who are in recovery mode. Number 1, Hardik Pandya, who is scheduled to make it to the IPL and will easily walk back into the squad not only as an all-rounder, but the big question is he could be given the reins as skipper. The argument is to ensure a smooth transition, let it pass on from Rohit to Hardik while they still play alongside each other, like we are about to witness in the Mumbai Indians franchise at the IPL this year. The second player, who is currently out with injury, Surya Kumar Yadav. The batter has been nominated in the ICC T20 Cricketer of the Year list for 2023. He will waltz into the T20 World Cup squad as well. So that means this series against Afghanistan is crucial for the likes of Jitesh Sharma, Washington Sundar and Rinku Singh to stake their claim in that lower order of the batting lineup, if, of course, given the chance. Rinku, though, with his heroics throughout 2023, most definitely seems to be the most fancied. The guy is a match winner. That leads us to the bowling department. It's safe to say Ravindra Jadeja, Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Siraj have been rested and not dropped. Jasprit Bumrah had a fantastic World Cup, his major tournament on his comeback trail. He led the pace attack admirably well alongside Mohammad Shami. Mohammad Siraj's doggedness too, an asset in big tournaments. That leaves players like Mukesh Kumar and Arshdeep, who are being keenly watched as top contenders to pad up India's pace attack. In the spin department, many vying to get that spot alongside Jadeja. Kuldeep Yadav and Ravi Bishnoi seem to be extremely good options and leading that option list, even though Akshar Patel's batting prowess is a tempting add-on. But India should look to learn from the ODI World Cup experience that they had. They were forced to sacrifice an all-rounder in Shardul Thakur and an injured Hardik Pandya for two specialists, Surya Kumar Yadav and Mohammad Shami, and that of course paid off. So a lot of things to tick for the Indian side and the Indian selectors when they sit in, and this series against Afghanistan starting on the 11th is just the starting point for it. The next few months will see musical chairs being conducted to determine who gets to be on that flight to play the T20 World Cup. India, of course, is slotted in Group A alongside Pakistan, the USA, Canada and Ireland. On to football now. You'll Never Walk Alone. It's a song composed by Richard Rodgers and is also perhaps the most famous song in football. It is heard before every kickoff at Anfield, especially when Liverpool FC is a part of it. Today, it's an anthem, of course, for them, and it's a huge part of the club's identity. It's like a unifying force that brings all the fans together. And now is when all Liverpool fans will be puffing up their chests and singing it loud and proud. Because yesterday they pulled off something special. Liverpool survived an Arsenal barrage to seal a place in the FA Cup 4th round. The dramatic win came after two late goals and Liverpool secured a gritty 2-0 win. Gunners defender Jakub Kjær headed Trent Alexander-Arnold's free kick into his own net with 10 minutes left. And Luis Diaz wrapped up a smash and grab raid in stoppage time. There's a reason I find this impressive. When Liverpool played the match against Arsenal, the irreplaceable Mo Salah wasn't even in the lineup. He has always led the Reds from the front. We know every club has their trump card. That's what Salah is to Liverpool. Once he departed for the Africa Cup of Nations, the imminent question was, can Liverpool keep winning without him?
Do you want to play without Mo? No. But if you have to, then we always, and we had in the past we didn't have to do it that often, but we always find, I think, a way to get through these periods. And I'm pretty sure that we will find. But of course, we play Arsenal, so that at Arsenal you can lose with Mo Salah. So it's possible as well you lose without him. But in the moment we have a chance to win the game, so I think we should more think about that.
Now, it was a big test for Jurgen Klopp and his side, and looks like they came through. Add to that the fact how the Reds were also without key players. Robertson, Matip, Dominic all have sustained injuries and are off the field. Virgil van Dijk, of course, was ruled out of Liverpool's Emirates FA Cup clash due to illness. Now, despite these setbacks, they have weathered a storm. Arsenal is FA Cup's most successful club. To fly to their home ground, the iconic Emirates Stadium, and win without so many first-choice players shows how Liverpool are serious contenders, not just here but in several competitions this season. The Reds are battling it out on 4 fronts: the Premier League, Europa League, FA Cup of course, and Carabao Cup, and have it in them to attain glory in all 4 of these. Today Liverpool sits at the top of the Premier League. They are through to the round of 16 in the Europa League and are playing the semi-final at the Carabao Cup. Seems like it could be the year of riches for the Reds this year. A turnaround from how the previous year ended. What are the reasons for the resurgence of the Reds, or at least a heightened performance? I will have to point out their signings first up. They brought in the right personnel to do the job for them. Especially Klopp brought in players without spending too much of a bomb on many, who elevated the team's overall performance. He himself called it Liverpool 2.0. The club spent over $120 million to rejig its team. These were well-thought-out signings for the 2023-2024 season. The Reds also parted ways with some of its most seasoned players. Stalwarts such as Roberto Firmino, former Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson also left the club. Henderson was followed by Fabio Tavares, who also travelled to Saudi Arabia to play for Al Ittihad. While it may be tough to get rid of established names, it was a move that paid off. To make room for newer talents, younger talents, in 2022, the Reds won the FA and Carabao Cups. 2 years on, after knocking the Gunners out, another double seems around the horizon for them. Their resilience in the coming weeks will be tested further, but Liverpool under Klopp have managed strong changes that have seen the transformation of them going from a good side to a potent one. The team brought in fresh legs and with that more intensity, and that is clearly showing in the results. Like last night, winning against Arsenal will definitely be a massive confidence boost. It's just one game, but to continue doing so will be the real challenge to their mettle. Their talismanic winger Salah is in the Ivory Coast, as we mentioned, to play for Egypt in the African Cup of Nations. He has netted 14 goals in 20 Premier League games and will miss some crucial fixtures in the days ahead. But Liverpool has shown the big names don't matter as long as the bigger picture is in play. And with the way they are heading into the next phase, they will not walk alone. Now, the heartbreak occurred right after everyone rejoiced. Fans thought the nerves were just superficial, like how you lean on nervous energy to take you through the day. That first round win at Brisbane International seemed like the flight before the fall. Rafael Nadal's announcement on social media that he will have to pull out of the Australian Open Grand Slam has given fans a massive blow. This owing to a separate injury, a muscle tear around the hip. With this, Nadal has skipped 16 Grand Slams owing to injuries alone. The comeback story of Rafa Nadal is proving to be too similar to his intense matches, much like how he used to treat his ardent fans to nerve-wracking rallies and coming back from behind and beyond to win a point or a match. Many are still hoping this is just like that, a brief hiatus or a service break, before the former world number one comes roaring back. But just how soon?
Rafael Nadal was making his comeback to professional tennis after a year. He last played competitive tennis at the Australian Open 2023 that he's now pulled out of. The hip injury was serious, unlike a string of his previous injuries that have sidelined him for months in the past. And after a successful surgery, Nadal announced coming back from January at the Brisbane International. Any comeback after a year is scary because it can go only one way, either superbly well or horribly bad. We saw that with Indian cricketer Jasprit Bumrah, who returned to competitive cricket after a year owing to a back injury, just as worrisome. The first run-in was fire, and he built it up so incredibly well over the months that followed. It played out similarly for Nadal. The first match Rafa played was great. It went to plan. His inside-out forehands were all in place. So too, his topspin-laden shots. His energy and spark was all in the right tempo, making you think for a moment that he was probably truly back. All that his support staff was nervous about was just on the surface. But the quarter-final loss after squandering 3 match points told a different story. There was an injury break too, and even though he finished the match, the fans were tense. And then came the post on his social media. He said, and I quote, "Hi all, during my last match in Brisbane, I had a small problem on a muscle that, as you know, made me worried. Once I got to Melbourne, I have had the chance to make an MRI and I have a micro tear on a muscle, not in the same part where I had the injury, and that's good news. Right now, I am not ready to compete at the maximum level of exigence in 5 sets matches. Therefore, I'm flying back to Spain to see my doctor, get some treatment and rest." A heartbreaking update to wake up to. Nadal has had 2 wins at the Australian Open Grand Slam. One in 2009, where it was a memorable win defeating Roger Federer, and then in 2022, where Rafa overcame a resilient Daniil Medvedev. The whispers have begun if they hadn't already. Is the comeback going to be another stuttering one? Is this going to be the last year for Rafael Nadal? We know his peers are disappointed. Carlos Alvarez left a heartfelt message after knowing Nadal won't be playing at the year's first Grand Slam. Tennis rivalries won't be the same again without Rafael Nadal's raging bull personality dominating the courts.
And that's all the time we have on the show. On to last serve. Now, it is the season of snow and ice all around, and it's in our DNA to always push our limits and try doing something that common sense tells us otherwise. And that's what this Daredevil bunch in China have done. Apparently, it's a wintertime tradition for many of them. Take a look. Quite the nerves of steel to tolerate all of that freeze, but that does it here on Firstpost. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again, of course, tomorrow at 7. Till then, bye-bye.